ASEAN, comprising the 10 countries of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, is one of the most diverse, fastest growing, and competitive regions in the world. The Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 aims to achieve a seamlessly and comprehensively connected and integrated ASEAN that will promote greater competitiveness, inclusiveness, and a stronger sense of community. To achieve this vision, the Master Plan will focus on 5 strategic areas: sustainable infrastructure, digital innovation, seamless logistics, regulatory excellence, and people mobility. According to some estimates, ASEAN needs at least $110 billion of infrastructure investment each year to support future growth. This is a big opportunity which the Master Plan aims to help investors seize by developing a rolling pipeline of priority infrastructure projects and by helping member states improve infrastructure productivity to reduce the time and cost of projects. It will also support the efforts of ASEAN's growing cities to adopt best practices in sustainable infrastructure, as the urban population is expected to increase by more than 90 million in the next 15 years. Digital technologies could potentially unleash up to $625 billion in annual economic impact in ASEAN by 2030, driven by increased efficiency and the development of new products and services. To ensure these benefits are fully captured and that all ASEAN people benefit, the Master Plan will focus on supporting the digital adoption of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, the development of open data, promoting digital financial inclusion, and establishing strong data governance frameworks. Enhancing ASEAN connectivity requires excellent logistics. The Master Plan aims to reduce the duration and cost of transportation in the region by identifying key bottlenecks in important trade routes and sharing best practices to remove them. With tariff elimination largely realized in ASEAN, our next challenge is removing the other barriers to trade. The Master Plan focuses on standards harmonization, mutual recognition, and technical regulations, as well as addressing trade-distorting non-tariff measures. The number of tourists from outside ASEAN could reach 150 million by 2025. The Master Plan will focus on facilitating travel for tourists by making information on travel options more accessible and providing simpler mechanisms to apply for necessary visas. The Master Plan will develop high-quality qualification frameworks in critical vocational occupations, which ASEAN countries could implement according to their national circumstances. The Master Plan will also encourage greater mobility of intra-ASEAN university students. Through the implementation of the Master Plan, ASEAN can strengthen its community-building efforts and demonstrate that the whole is truly greater than the sum of the parts. Want to find out more and see how you can participate? Visit our website.
The year 2020 marks ASEAN's 5 years of community building, halfway to Vision 2025, a community of peace, prosperity, and sustainability. Vietnam has the honor to be the chair of ASEAN in 2020. We endeavor to further strengthen ASEAN unity and solidarity, regional integration and connectivity, promote ASEAN commonalities and awareness, deepen ASEAN engagement with a global community, and enhance ASEAN institutional capacity. We underline the importance of promoting ASEAN proactiveness and creativity in response to the rapid changes in the global landscape, non-traditional challenges, and the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Vietnam wishes to bring to ASEAN and partners its charming beauty and warm hospitality. Welcome to Vietnam. ASEAN 2020, cohesive and responsive. Think community, act community.
The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, was established on August 8, 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand. So this year, ASEAN is celebrating its 53rd anniversary. Through the years, this regional organization has been promoting economic, political, and security cooperation among its 10 members. Greetings to the people of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and the host country, Vietnam. Happy ASEAN Month 2020. In 2017, Proclamation No. 282 was signed by our President declaring August as ASEAN Month in order to further raise public awareness on the importance and value of the regional bloc in achieving and maintaining regional peace and sustainable development. All government agencies, including the Commission on Higher Education, are mandated to initiate and implement programs that would generate awareness and public support in promoting the observance of ASEAN Month. So this year, we, in CHED Regional Office 1, have prepared activities to meet this aim and highlight this year's theme, Cohesive and Responsive ASEAN. Today's webinar is at the top of our list. CHED Regional Office 1, in partnership with Asean University Network, or AUN, will conduct a free webinar that aims to strengthen educational collaboration among ASEAN higher education institutions during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are indeed very fortunate for this learning opportunity, as CHED Region 1 is committed to support all HEIs in the region to deliver quality flexible learning through webinars since May. At this juncture, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to those who joined us in our previous webinars. At present, we have 14,662 Facebook likes, 25,030 Facebook followers, and 5,089 YouTube subscribers, and counting. We hope that you continue to support us and inform us. Inform your friends about our social media accounts to be updated on our programs, services, and activities. Before we formally start, we will have our opening prayer in the form of an audiovisual presentation to be followed by the singing of the ASEAN hymn and the Philippine national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now feel the holy presence of our Creator as we pray.
Go أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم آمين يا رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم اجمع شامل المسلمين والكريستيان والأمة في مدينة دباو وسلم دائما مجتمعنا هذا بالسلم والأمن والتقدم في بلدنا هذا آمين يا رب العالمين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times we have offended you, when we forget to acknowledge your presence in the image of our brothers and sisters, and for moments we fail to be good stewards of the blessings you have given us. Continue to guide and protect each one of us, Lord, that we may always walk in the light of your everlasting love and mercy. Grant us, Father, with your comfort in times of distress and with your strength in times of weakness. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with the prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
Manama mawantog ka warpoko iling koy ko O Diyos kahibulungan ka busa ikaw lang ang simbahon ko busa ikaw lang ang alagaran ko
nagsisikip sa nakataputol sa sibayan sa langit o bagaw ay hinatang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal ang isang lang ang tawag ko'y tagumpay na nagkikinig ang pituwing at karoon niya kailan ang hindi magtitinig lumang ang araw ng waragit pansin ka buhay langit sa piling mo ang hindi kaya ng kanya'y mga api at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Mabuhay! You are still with CHED Region 1 in celebration of ASEAN 2020. To formally open our webinar on Cohesive and Responsive ASEAN 2020, we now have the statement of purpose and opening message of our OIC Director 4 of CHED Region 1, Dr. Rogelio T. Galera, Jr.
Greetings to our friends and colleagues in Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and of course, Philippines. A day filled with hope and optimism to you all. In his speech on June 20 during the 36th ASEAN Summit, Vietnam Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc, this year's chairperson, emphasized the need to enhance ASEAN's unity, cooperation and solidarity, and economic integration, among others. Moreover, he also pointed out the importance of promoting ASEAN proactiveness and capacity in seizing opportunities, as well as in addressing the challenges. Speaking of challenges, we have been plagued and caught off guard by COVID-19 pandemic this year. It has claimed lives and even hopes and dreams. But looking at the bright side, it has brought out the best in us. We have learned to be more cautious about health and wellness. We have worked hard to pursue learning continuity. We have sought ways to collaborate and support one another so we can be ready to teach and facilitate our students this academic year. We will never put our banners down, for we believe that quality education is an essential key to our nation's progress and ASEAN's prosperity. With the advent of Bayanihan Higher Ed, where well-prepared and generous higher education institutions provided support to the other schools that needed capacity-building programs for their faculty and staff, and technical assistance in the implementation of flexible learning, and with the launching of PhilChed Connect, where different schools uploaded their instructional modules and other educational resources which are open and available for everybody's use. Truly, we have proven that we can travel an extra mile if we exemplify cohesiveness. Cohesiveness should be coupled with relevance. Relevant education is teaching 21st century skills. Relevant education is one which prepares our young for future jobs. Students must be highly trained in the emerging technologies and, more importantly, in the values and skills associated with using these technologies. Critical thinking, creativity, resilience, communication, to name a few. This is not an easy task, but with the spirit of cohesiveness or solidarity, we are ever ready to offer relevant education. Inspired by this year's theme, we in CHED Region 1 have invited speakers from different universities in ASEAN who will share with us their best practices in education. At this point in time, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to ASEAN University Network, which never fails to strengthen the existing network of cooperation among universities and contribute in the area of capacity building and human resources development in the region. Thank you for your continued assistance. Joining us in our webinars today are Dr. Choltis Diratiti, AUN Executive Director, our very own attorney Lily Frida Amelia, our CHED OIC Deputy Executive Director, Brother Raimundo Suplido of De La Salle University, Dr. Abdul Rahim Hasim of University Malaya, Dr. Anita Aziz of University Brunei Darussalam, Dr. Panut Mulyono of Universitas Gadjah Mada, and Dr. Samsi Dofanse of National University of Laos. Let us take this wonderful learning opportunity as we venture in the new normal educational landscape. For our students, we have also scheduled several activities for you from August 10 to August 27. All higher education institutions are encouraged to participate in infographics making, on the spot essay writing, digital art making, spoken poetry, online canvas painting, online chorale, and creative face mask and headband making. For our instructors in the region, you may join in the online teaching demo contest. We are excited to see you all in our celebration. To end, let me say, this is not a time for isolation, but a time for collaboration. This is not a time for competition, but a time for partnership. This is not a time for complacency, but a time for innovation. Cohesiveness and relevance are our silver lining in these difficult times. Let us learn as one and let us celebrate ASEAN 2020 as one. Happy ASEAN Month 2020 to one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Galera. Indeed, this is a time for collaboration, partnership, and innovation. At this juncture, we would like to acknowledge our viewers all the way from Abra, Sultan Kudarat, Cavite, Rizal, Quezon City, Tarlac, Quezon Province, Laguna, Bukidnon, Cavite, Manila, Bulacan, Masbate, Ilocos Norte, Pangasinan, La Union, and Ilocos Sur. We also want to acknowledge that here with us is Dr. Samsi Nofangsai, the President of National University of Laos. Also, we acknowledge our participants from different Asian nations. We have from Brunei, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, and Malaysia. We also have with us today CHED's OIC Deputy Executive Director who will deliver her keynote address. Allow me to read some details about her. She served as a university legal counsel for the University of the Philippines system from 1999 to 2001 and later became chief of the CHED Legal Service, the director of the CHED Office for State Universities and Colleges and Local Universities and Colleges Concerns, and now the Director 3 of the CHED International Affairs Staff and OIC Deputy Executive Director, spanning a total of 16 years of government service in the Philippine higher education sector. To share with us her talk on strengthening educational collaboration among ASEAN higher education institutions during COVID-19 pandemic, let us all welcome Attorney Lily Freda M. Milia Seso for.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Am I- Good morning. Good morning, everyone. To Dr. Rogelio Galera Jr., Director of CHEDRO 1, to our distinguished array of speakers led by the rectors of the ASEAN University Network and the ASEAN University Network Executive Director, Dr. Choltis. I saw also Dr. uh, Brother Ray Suplido of De La Salle University. Good morning, everyone. Truly, CHED Region 1 is an outstanding region, and we are proud in CHED to have them. You are led by an exemplary leader. Your team, Dr. Galera, is really tops, and it's the beacon of excellence, as CHED Commissioner Lily de las Llagas um, describe your region. Mabuhay kayo, and thank you so much for having this launching and this celebration. My next slide, please. The United Nations calls the COVID situation, okay, calls the COVID a human, economic, and social crisis. It has upended the lives of various segments of the population, with the poor and the vulnerable people unfortunately bearing the brunt of the pandemic's health and economic impacts. And as of August 11, the Johns Hopkins University and Medicine Corona Resource Center reports that the disease has spread with 20 million identified cases in 188 countries. To date, recoveries number at 12.3 million, while the death toll is 736,000. In the ASEAN region, we have almost 333,000 cases. And for the Philippines, as of August 10, we have 55,865 cases. For the Philippines, upon the declaration putting the entire Metro Manila and Luzon Island under enhanced community quarantine, CHED Chairman J. Prospero de Vera III firmly stated that the approach to education should be anchored on the premise that learning must continue, quarantine or not. He further insisted that it is the responsibility of everyone, not just those in education, to ensure the continuity of learning. It is not just the universities, it is not definitely not just CHED, but our communities, the local government agencies, and other government agencies. In response to the crisis, in line with the directives of the national government, CHED has released 7 guidelines or advisories for the prevention, control, and mitigation of the spread of coronavirus. I'd like to say that CHED responded uh, in three in three actions, no, for safety and welfare of the students, staff, faculty, and all the stakeholders of higher education, for the continuity of learning, and third, for the transformation phase. So health guidelines and safety protocols for HEIs were issued. There was suspension of class, academic calendars were adjusted, and of course for our international students and staff, repatriation was undertaken. We also deployed the use of distance mode, flexible learning, rolling opening classes based on capacity. Right now, CHED is doing a massive capacity building for faculty and staff on flexible learning. There are discussion on the connectivity issues with the Department of ICT. We're pursuing engagement with international partners with the needed capacity building and consolidating resources. There are reviews of the PSGs, and there's all constant review of the other issuances, CHED issuances, to adopt and to respond to the situation we are here right now. We also realize that this is an opportunity to create profound changes in the higher education sector. Indeed, COVID-19 not only has threatened higher education in terms of student engagement, institutional sustainability, and teaching force management. The disruption have also yielded opportunities and possibilities that would be hard to pursue in normal times. That's why we are now embarking on the continuity and connectivity towards transforming Philippine higher education. Next slide. Okay. ASEAN celebrated its 53rd anniversary last August 8, 2020. And for the past years, the Commission has been conducting an annual celebration in commemoration of this occasion with the assistance of our regional offices to continue spreading awareness about ASEAN and what it means to be part of the greater ASEAN community. In this time when our community of nations is going through a common challenge together, we feel it to be a very important task for us to keep on engaging our stakeholders to come together, even just virtually, to strengthen Filipino spirit and ASEAN identity. And even in this time of global pandemic, ASEAN's presence is felt During the 36th ASEAN Summit held on June 26, 2020, discussions focused on post-pandemic recovery, initiatives focused on the establishment of an ASEAN COVID-19 response fund, medical supplies reserve, and an ASEAN standard procedures for responding to epidemics, among many other initiatives. All this perfectly fit in Vietnam's theme for its chairmanship of the ASEAN this year: cohesive and responsive. The regional bloc has an array of mechanisms that were mobilized since the start of the year to plan ASEAN's pandemic response. These platforms help ensure convergence and facilitate a united response. Dialogue partners have also been working with the region in determining and addressing gaps in national responses and mitigating social and economic impacts of the pandemic. Next slide. At this point, it will be worthwhile to share with you the main of the chairman's statement on ASEAN collective response to the outbreak of COVID-19. And here in the statement, he emphasizes the importance of ASEAN solidarity and a cohesive and responsive region in handling the outbreak, commends intensifying national and regional efforts to combat the outbreak, and calls for collective response, strong coordination at the national and regional levels, intensified sharing of information, experiences, and best practice. This statement also affirms the need to maintain economic and borders open, subject to coordinated and standardized measures for health inspection at borders and entry points. So celebrating, but let me state also that celebrate that our celebration is not just on ASEAN's founding anniversary, but a celebration of ASEAN's vision, ideals, and principles. Next slide. And despite the pandemic, we remain committed to addressing our commitments embodied in various action plans, work plans, and policy documents on education, most notably the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on a people-oriented, people-centered adopted in 2015. The declaration calls for enhancing people-to-people connectivity and enhanced cooperation on education through regional exchanges, academic mobility, and quality higher education. We are determined to answer this call. The pandemic may have limited our mobility, but not our commitment to community building and people to people connectivity. Next slide. Higher education is not spared from COVID-19's unfortunate effects. In addition to the various initiatives undertaken by the Commission to ensure continued access to education in these trying times, we continue to work with our partners in ASEAN and beyond in harmonizing higher education in the region through a wide range of platforms and mechanisms. First, on credit transfer and student mobility. The Commission supports the implementation of the ASEAN EU credit transfer system, and it is a process compatible with the ECTS, the European Credit Transfer System, and other credit transfer systems used in ASEAN. It embodies shares goal of contributing to the harmonization of higher education in the region through facilitating comparability and compatibility of studies. The ASEAN Plus 3 guidelines on transcript and supplemental documents for academic record of exchange students is also one mechanism that the Commission is supporting. And in fact, the chairman has already issued the memorandum on the encouraging the use of the APT guidelines on our exchange programs. It aims to promote transparency and mutual understanding, encourage institutional accountability and mutual trust, and ensures the safe mobility for our students. It contributes also to the larger goal of creating a harmonized higher education area in ASEAN. This complements the ASEAN Plus 3 guidelines on student exchanges and mobility, which aims to provide a basic framework for student exchange and mobility with quality assurance. So I said this has been approved, and a corresponding CHED memorandum has been issued. Next slide. In 2019, the chair of the national office was able to finalize the draft on the guidelines on higher education mobility. But then the pandemic happened, and before we could officially issue it, and due to the unprecedented changes we're encountering in the higher education sector, specifically in internationalization, we deemed it necessary to update the guidelines to include provisions covering virtual mobility. And through this policy, we hope to contribute to the increase of Filipino exchange students by providing financial, logistical, and technical support mechanisms to our stakeholders. Upon its release, we hope to work closely with the Philippine higher education institutions in making sure the policy contributes in addressing the four gaps of information, awareness, regulatory and incentives, and in enhancing student mobility identified by the Master Plan on ASEAN connectivity. The guidelines have the following salient features. We will be listing the institutional individual qualifications to ensure the quality of the exchanges. We will be outlining the procedures to be followed by institutions wishing to participate in mobility programs. There's also a self-assessment toolkit that will be incorporated in the guidelines so that you can also determine at what level of preparedness are the institutions to embark on exchanges. There's a clear delineation of roles and responsibilities of concerned parties, financial assistance, there's an incentive and reward scheme for our mobility participants and also for our participating higher education institutions. There is, as I said, a provision for virtual mobility and internships. We are also looking closely at the new programs of the university mobility in Asia and the Pacific, a wide network of universities, both public and private, across Asia Pacific, and the Philippines is an active member of this network. They are rolling programs on cross enrollment among partner universities, the collaborative online international learning, and a hybrid model that will have cross enrollment and the COIL program and virtual exchanges and immersion. So mobility there may be limitation in our physical mobility, but never our passion, as I said, for internationalization and people to people connectivity. Next slide. Our efforts also focus on flexible learning, and it is anchored on the premise that learning must continue. And we have been pursuing partnerships which ensure that the barriers of students' access to an educational context are all removed. It provides various learning choices for students, gives them a share of the responsibility through a learner centered constructivist approach, and allows them to make the choice for their own learning. Virtual internships is also another area we're exploring, though not without challenges. And we call upon our HEIs that have experiences on this to share with us this experience so that we can build this policy framework. Companies, we know also that including companies and industries, because they need to create internship programs in an online platform based on their needs and also of the needs of our students. It ensures that we are able to use applications and programs that make hiring, recruitment, and management easier. It also takes more effort to build a sense of community on a virtual platform. Arguably, it's harder than in a physical setting. But together we can do it, and we really want to our stakeholders, the industry, to lend their support in building this policy. We have also current initiatives that reflect our pursuit for new modalities of collaborating in the new normal. We have the Field Shed Connect, as mentioned. It's an online platform storing higher education, open educational resources, materials in various forms that can be used in teaching, learning, and research under the flexible learning scheme. It can be used by our faculty and staff and students. We have also the CHED Higher Education, High Ed Bayanihan. It's a virtual cooperative learning environment dedicated for training, capacity building, and resource sharing. We've seen the generosity of spirit in our higher education sector, where our leading universities offer their training and their support for the other higher education institutions that are still struggling or meeting the challenges of transitioning into the flexible learning. And we have created this virtual cooperative learning environment that can hopefully grow into a community of practice on flexible learning where we share and we learn from each other. And I know many of our higher education institutions and universities in the Philippines are are very busy right now because they continue to connect and to create new programs on the online platform so that exchanges and sharing may continue. And truly, even if we are limited right now and we cannot travel and meet each other like before, uh, this this does not hinder us to create a, a bigger a bigger classroom, a bigger connected and collaborative citizens. And this is my last slide. And in the face of the emerging new normal, the Commission is committed to finding ways to make the Philippine higher education sector more responsive and relevant. We aim to reimagine our policies, regulations, and standards and plan for a rewired higher education ecosystem attuned to existing national priorities as well as the new global order. As we do all that, we can and to make our higher education systems responsive and relevant in the new normal, we must keep in mind that we must go for initiatives that promote accessibility, sustainability, quality, and more importantly, equity. Echoing the call made by our chairman, Dr. Rivera, we encourage our colleagues and partners in the ASEAN higher education system to anchor our efforts on the premise that our stakeholders must have continued access to learning at this time. Despite the greatness of this challenge, we believe that as generators of innovation and agents of change, higher education institutions are up to the task. Together, we can adequately and comprehensively respond to this crisis while improving the quality of education and addressing learning gaps. Now, more than ever, we must come together as one ASEAN community and pursue responsive, cohesive actions to achieve our national and regional higher education aspirations, even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay. Thank you so much, Chedro One, for this very excellent effort in bringing ASEAN closer to our higher education stakeholders and closer also to ASEAN. Can you please show my last slide? These are contact numbers. If you need to get in touch with International Affairs Office, please. I lost my screen, so I still have my. These are the contact numbers. Yes, yes. Please get in touch with us. We'll be happy to discuss with you all our programs and efforts. Mabuhay. Salamat.
Thank you, Attorney Lily. So let me just highlight some important points in your talk. So you mentioned that learning must continue and the pandemic may have limited our mobility, but not our commitment to community building and cooperation. So that is something that we should really put in mind, especially in this time of pandemic. So we know that you are very busy. That is why we are deeply honored that you have accepted our invitation. And as our gesture of appreciation, we would like to give you this e-certificate.
Thank you.
Let me read the text, Attorney Lily. Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Attorney Lily Freda M. Milia Sesofor, OIC Deputy Executive Director, Director 3 International Affairs Staff, for generously sharing her time and expertise as a keynote speaker during the webinar on Cohesive and Responsive ASEAN 2020. The insights that she shared are truly significant to creating resilient higher education institutions in Region 1 and in Southeast Asia, ready to embrace the new normal in education. Amid the pressing issues of our time, we have learned to celebrate our Asian identity and its timeless values of cooperation and respect for each other's individuality to a more peaceful, stable, and prosperous ASEAN. Given this 10th day of August 2020, the Commission on Higher Education, Regional Office 1, City of San Fernando, La Union, 2500, Philippines. And signed by our OIC Director 4, Rogelio P. Galera Jr.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Excellent, Chedro One.
But we're not done yet, ma'am. We have a surprise for
Yes,
you.
I will stay. Oh,
We won't let this special day pass without greeting you. Happy birthday. To our viewers out there, please join us as we
wow.
greet happy birthday. So that's our digital or virtual birthday card, Attorney Lily. So let's watch
Thank
the video.
you.
So as we are waiting for the video, let me read the text. Happy birthday, Attorney Lily Freda Emilia, a woman of substance, compassion, and character. You deserve happiness and the best things that life has to offer. You truly deserve to be happy. Like the lily, you have been a symbol of passion and drive in bringing the Philippine education system to the road of global competitiveness. Your purity of intentions and genuine beauty have inspired and motivated us to work selflessly and tirelessly in forming the minds and hearts of the young. From the depths of our hearts, we wish you continued success in your career and a fulfilling personal life filled with joy and meaning. Stay vibrant, healthy, and energetic. Love, JR, and you're a good dancer. I am. So let's watch this. Happy birthday again, Attorney Lily. I hope you like our
Thank you. That was a surprise. No,
We're very grateful that you like it. Ma'am, we
thank
will
you. It's a national celebration now.
national celebration. Ma'am will place you at the backstage for the meantime because after
Yes.
two speakers, we will be having an open forum. So we request our viewers to encode their questions in the Facebook comment section and in the YouTube chat box. So later on, we will be reading your questions. So ma'am, please stand by
Thank you.
and stay with us
Yes.
using the link. And as an intermission, we pause for a while and let's watch the ASEAN theme song this year entitled One ASEAN.
ASEAN way is caring. ASEAN way is sharing. No matter the distance Between us, ASEAN still unites as one. Friendship still holds our hearts tight to keep us fight as one. No harm can defeat us, no pain can frighten us, since we are always one.
Harmony is what we believe in. No one will be left behind. So we can fly as one, blow our love to the sky. Since we are always one,
Let's share our spirits to heal the world.
let
Our consonants speak out loud. Let the light of ideas shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. Let's share
our spirits to heal the world. Let
our consonants speak out loud. Let the light of ideas shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one.
our spirits to heal the world.
Let our consonants speak out loud.
Let the light shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. Let's share our spirits to heal the world. Let our consonants speak out loud. Let the light shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. ASEAN still unites as one. As embrace caring, as embrace sharing, ASEAN still unites as one. As embrace caring, as embrace sharing, ASEAN still unites as one. As embrace caring, as embrace sharing, ASEAN still unites as one.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our theme song for this ASEAN 2020 celebration. It's entitled ASEAN as One and sung by Lara Maige of the Philippines and Kitinan Chinsamran from Thailand. It's ASEAN Secretariat and ASEAN's second heartwarming gift on this occasion, especially for the people who are currently facing the COVID-19 pandemic. The song was composed by Wachara Plumyard, written by Sutipun Nujaya, and arranged and orchestrated by Anant Narkong, Murata Ruamrak, and Polkit Entara Sombat. At this juncture, let us now proceed to our session one. This session highlights the word cohesive in the theme, which represents the idea of upholding the unity, solidarity, and internal strength of ASEAN, increasing economic connectivity, deepening the Asian values and identities, enhancing the efficiency of the bloc's apparatus, and promoting the ASEAN's partnerships in the global community. Our first resource speaker is a lecturer in politics at the Faculty of Political Science, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. He has worked for ASEAN University Network, AUN, since 2009, where he employs his experience on public sector strategies, policy consultancy, and human resource development to the work of regional and multilateral cooperation among universities in Southeast Asia. To share with us the role of higher education in times of global pandemic, let us welcome the current executive director of the ASEAN University Network, an intergovernmental organization under ASEAN Secretariat and our partner in conducting this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Choltis Diratiti.
Good morning.
Sawad. Did I pronounce it right, Dr. Choltis?
That's correct. Shotis, yes. Just call me Shotis.
Okay.
I hope you hear me all right.
Yes, sir. We're very fine. How about you, sir? How are you in Thailand?
I'm fine. Very good.
Well, yesterday I read in the news that there were no new reported cases in Thailand. So how were you able to do it in Thailand?
We still need to be a bit cautious. It can come back anytime.
So caution is really, really important in this time.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that reminder. So we now give you the virtual floor for you to start your talk.
Thank you very much, Mel. Madam Lily Frida Mila of Chet, the Philippines. Dr. Logerio Carrera, also from Chet, the Philippines. Brother Raimundo Suplido, a board member of the AUN and the president of De La Salle University. Dear speakers and moderators, viewers on this live stream, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I like to express my gratitude to the Commission on Higher Education, Regional Office 1, the Philippines, for organizing this event and for inviting ASEAN University Network and our board of trustees member to participate as speakers in this webinar. The timing of this webinar to me is very right. It's just 6 months after we locked down. 6 months is a good timing to review and evaluate what we have been through. The AUN Secretariat itself has locked down in the last week of February early this year. So counting back is roughly around 6 months now. And the topic given to me is the role of higher education in times of global pandemic. I expect that in terms of how universities respond to the global pandemic, the viewers can gain a lot of insights and information from our speakers after me, because they are all from the member universities of the ASEAN University Network. Most of them are I think all of them are the presidents, vice chancellors, or rectors of our member university. And thank again for the Shed for organizing this meeting. I'd like to go to my next slide, which is the outline of my talk today. I like to divide my presentation into three parts, starting with a very brief introduction to the AUN. Because many of the live stream viewers here, and also the YouTube viewers, may not know in depth what the AUN is about. And then I will go to the main content of the talk today, which is about the AUN responses to the global pandemic. And then I will end my talk in reflecting on how currently we are doing things online. What does it mean to us all, and also to the future of the higher education sector, particularly in the ASEAN region. Next, I like to go into the brief introduction to the AUN, starting with very briefly, we are established by the vision of the ASEAN leaders when they met in the fourth ASEAN summit. The leaders call for cooperation in the field of higher education and human resource development. So the AUN started to form in 1995, and then we agree on the establishment in that year also. Our status is one of the sectoral ministerial body in the overall structure of the ASEAN. We are responsible for higher education cooperation. Next is our core member universities. As of now, we have 30 core member universities from all 10 ASEAN countries. These are our, I would say, our comrades, our friends who stick together since 1995, 1998, over 25 years ago. At that time, it was very skeptical who are these bunch of universities gathering together for what purpose. But as you will see later on, that 25 years later, the vision of our leaders is yielding results, as I will show you next. But as I said, those are the core 30 members who stick together from the very beginning. But as of now, today, we are a network that expanding a lot. Right now, we have if we look into the AUNQA Quality Assurance Associate member universities, we have over hundreds, 117 as of now, but the application is coming in regularly. So the membership in terms of the associate members are expanding. Nearly we are reaching nearly 200 university in Southeast Asia. So it's not only the core member, but we are also expanding. That's the key message here. Apart from that, next slide will show you that we also have a so-called sister network, which is the network with those universities in Korea, Japan, and China. But the number from those plus so-called +3 countries are still limited to 21 universities, and the way in which we engage with universities from the so-called +3 countries is very strategic. It's not meaning that we are not open up for quantity, but we really focus on quality. Next is to show everyone that today AUN is like a spearhead of the higher education collaboration in ASEAN, spearheading for the results for ASEAN. As the alliance of leading universities in ASEAN, we have been and we are still spearheading many programs and projects that we perceive as having longer term impacts to the development of the higher education institutions in ASEAN as a whole. By spearheading, I mean that AUN is piloting a lot of projects. When you piloting, when you do the pilot projects, most of the time you fail. That's normal. That's the common fact of life. But whenever we succeeded in our pilot projects, we roll it out to other universities in our region. The obvious example is the AUN quality assurance system that we first started around 20 years ago in a very small group, among them the universities. And then when we succeeded, now we are rolling out, as I have shown earlier, that we have over 100 universities associate members in this quality assurance activities. Next is to show you that the way we are spearheading or piloting our projects and programs for the benefit of the ASEAN region as a whole, the main driving engines are what we call the thematic networks or the sub-network of the AUN. These, each and every one of these network is like a sub-network of the AUN in a very specialized subject matter collaboration. For example, we have a sub-network on human rights education, on ASEAN economic community, on health promotion, on technology enhanced personalized learning, on university social responsibilities and sustainabilities, and so on and so forth. Each one of these subnetworks is the gathering of the specialists from our member universities and also from our associate members who gather to collaborate on a very specialist subject matters for the benefit of the region as a whole. So this is the main driving engines of how we deliver our work apart from the machine of the AUN Secretariat itself. Next is to show you a very brief big picture, very big picture of our deliverables. We have been in the past 20 years or so, we involve over 6,000 students within the region and beyond in our student platform. We engage more than 1,500 university leaders over the past 20 years in our exchange of views, knowledge, experiences, and also in the networking. For the quality assurance, we've been doing more than 450 study program assessments, also 7 institutional assessments, a lot of trainings, and also through, as I mentioned earlier, through the working of the 17 thematic networks, we collaborate on the academic and research attempts. As of now, we also have a specific focus on the subject areas of civil engineering, medicine, and teacher education in their curriculum designs and development. Next year, I hope for going deeper in these 3 subject areas into the area of how we assess the learning outcome, the very specific learning outcomes in these 3 subject areas: civil engineering, medicine, and teacher education. With our European partner, I'd like to go deeper in these 3 subject areas. Next is our areas, big 5 areas of activities in curriculum, in learning approaches, in quality assurance, students, and most importantly, the academic and research collaboration, and also in learning and sharing via or through university networking. Next slide is to show you some glimpse of those 5 areas, starting with the curriculum and learning approaches and quality assurance. It's quite AUNQA is quite well known in this region. We have our own assessors. We have been conducting our QA trainings, and most importantly, we have been doing the assessment of the study programs. In the area of curriculum and learning approaches, we also, as I mentioned earlier, we also work closely with our European partner to develop a deeper aspect of curriculum design and advanced teaching and learning approaches. Next is another area of our activities, students, skill enhancement and experiences. We have so many platforms, not only the scholarship, but also the gathering platform of our students. I will mention this in the later slides. This area is the most heavily affected by the current global pandemic. Next is the academic collaboration and research. Again, these are done through the working of the AUN thematic network. This slide show you some publication of the research results from our human rights education subnetwork. And next is the final area of our activities, which is learning and sharing through networking. We have our main platforms are the rector meetings. Next is the head of international relation meetings. And next one is also the meeting with that involve our +3 member, the ASEAN +3 presidents or rectors conference. Of these areas of activities, the results of which have been evaluated through our so-called the impact indicators, which I like to show in the next slide. We have 11 sets of impact indicators. These indicators also answer the question why we are here, why the AUN is here. The answer is to deliver these results and hopefully influence the impacts, the outcomes in a longer term. For example, we have the outcome, the end outcomes in the area of ASEAN awareness, lifelong learning in education, and also education for sustainable development. And next is the outcome related to higher education quality assurance and enhancement, also university industry partnership. And next is also the end outcomes related to the capacity building for educators and universities. And number 7 is very crucial, is the end outcomes set by each and every of our thematic networks. From which we deliver the results for the benefit of the ASEAN region as a whole. Those are the end outcomes, but obviously it cannot be delivered without the intermediate outcomes, which is shown in the next slide. We have 4 sets of intermediate outcome. And what is relevant today for today's discussion is probably the number 8, the role of information and communication technology in higher education, which for the AUN is the uses of ICT in higher education that we could maximize in terms of not only quality but also the accessibility of those uses. Also, the outcome or impact related to the information and knowledge exchange, very important for this region. and also the academic resources exchange. And the last intermediate outcome is the work of the Secretariat of the AUN itself. So that's a very brief introduction to the AUN. Next, I like to go into the main contents of my talk today, which is the AUN's responses to the current academic pandemic. Next slide, just to actually is next slide, please. Is to remind myself that we suffer as everyone else. We during the lockdown and still until now, we suspended or postponed over 60 activities and platforms which were scheduled from March to November this year. Over 60 of them have been suspended or postponed. And also, like everyone else, we move online. We move to the online platform. The AUN reacted very fast. For example, the Secretariat, the AUN Secretariat itself, locked down itself in the last week of February. After we learned from our events, real events in early February, that it became difficult to organize a face-to-face meeting, particularly in terms of cross-border platform. Our last event that we organized is the student leaders forum in Chiang Mai, Thailand. At that time, we were very cautious, and we implemented a lot of precautionary measures, including at that time they didn't call it this social distancing, but as early as February this year, the AUN platform, student platform, we somehow have implemented those precautionary measures. And we in February also we had to make a decision, a lot of decisions to either postpone or even cancel our big platform. For example, our annual quality assurance meeting, which we would like to organize in. Actually, we planned everything already, even booked the air tickets to Bandung in Indonesia. We had to cancel. So, like everyone else, it's a common action taken. Next slide will show you that we also suffer a lot of the calendar rescheduling. This is in 2020, either cancel or postpone. Some of them could be done through the online means. So we did it. Some of them, but not some of them are not the majority. The majority of activities are postponed or cancel. Next, also the calendar of 2021. When we plan our calendar, we look ahead 2 to 3 years in advance, meaning that we plan 36 months ahead for all the AUN activities. And for this year pandemic, Our planning principle dictates that probably we can have no face-to-face or physical meeting until the end of next year, 2021. So we created two kinds of scenario. Scenario one is about a kind of relaxing lockdown. But scenario two, as of now, we we stick to scenario two, which is no travel at all throughout the end of until the end of 2021 next year. That's how we plan our project, and hopefully in 2022 we can resume somehow in some form our physical activities. Anyway, despite all these setback, as I mentioned earlier, some of our activities we do it online. For example, next slide, showing you that right after the lockdown in early March, we started to move some of our activities to online means. For example, as of today, the AUN Secretariat is ready to start the quality assurance assessment at program level by means of the online or remote site visit. And this site visit will be conducted remotely or through the online means. The first assessment will start next month. We have been preparing since the early month of the lockdown, and now this show you that we have been preparing quite a lot. It's not easy to suddenly migrate your operation from physical to online. So it took us over 4 months or so, 4 to 5 months to come up with the readiness to conduct our quality assurance with the deployment of the online or remote site visit. And I think as of now, many universities have been realized that this is the way things will be done. And so we have quite a good reception of this quality assurance operation by means of the online site visit. Next, we will show you that during the lockdown, at the peak of the lockdown, we also conducted or organized a meeting of our AUNQA assessors. We could get 100 assessors from 9 countries in ASEAN to join our one day meeting, which is a combination of a meeting and a interactive workshop. We did it by a lot of preparation also involved. For example, we did a short video, around 5 or 6 videos, short video capturing the scenario within the assessment of the AUN itself, and we send out these short videos to our assessor before the meeting, because when you are having an online meeting, you cannot be certain that it will go smoothly. Some of the techniques that you normally use, such as showing the video or a moving picture or visual stuff, it may not be working well for some participants. When we are doing it, we involve nearly 10 ASEAN countries, and everyone is in their own place, in his or her own residential areas, with different kind of internet connection. So we cannot be sure that everything that we plan to do will be running smoothly. So we have to think a lot about what happened if this plan A fail. So we go for plan B and plan C, and we really implemented concurrently plan A, plan B, plan C in one go. We don't wait for something to happen in order to implement plan B. So our organizing principle is that we implemented plan A, plan B, plan C at the same time, because we cannot be sure that some of our participants may have difficulties in connecting within this online workshop. So that is another example, and from the evaluation after the assessor meeting, we got quite a very good reception from the evaluation. Next is to show you the areas in which we suffer most. The activities that we suffer most during the lockdown and still suffering as of now is all the activities related to students, those student platform. The main reason for this is that for this student platform, it need to be conducted online with a physically, and according to our project design, the platform design. For example, I will show you the next slide. When we organize the student activities, we think through a lot of steps into which each students that has been sent by their own universities will go through and gain a lot of learning experience step by step in a sequence on top of each other. So for every single student platform organized by the AUN, we plan the learning steps for the student involved. And for example, this is to show you one of our platform is the educational forum and young speaker contest. It's a double event. That's one speaker contest and one meeting of the student whose interests are in the following the global issues. These students come together to discuss the issue of global concern, with the result of which we send to the relevant ASEAN agency. The result which I mentioned is, we call it a joint statement by the student, which is a kind of policy recommendations from students' own view, without any intervention from non-students. So all the activities are threaded in a very neat, well-designed sequences. And this is done in a physical platform. So you can imagine that right now we cannot organize any of the student activities like this anymore probably until end of next year. So we have to rethink how we can mitigate this setback by redesigning some kind of the student platform that could be done mostly online, but probably partially within their own country, but with the online connection to the rest of 9 ASEAN countries. And as of now, also I'm engaging with our Korean counterpart to somehow organize this kind of student forum by utilizing the online technology, and we will experiment it this November. Again, this is the AUN is for piloting something new, but everything we are piloting involves a lot of risks in terms of the success rate. Those are the my second part of the presentation. The thing we've been doing in responses to the outbreak. Next, I like to move to my final section, which is about doing things online. What does it mean? What does it involve? Actually, we've been doing things online quite sometimes, even before this global pandemic. For example, next, we've been doing the ASEAN Studies module contents production online. This was done 11 years ago, 10 to probably 10 years ago. Around 10 years ago, we did produce the collaboration among our leading scholars in the field of ASEAN studies, and producing the contents of the ASEAN studies courses. And then, with a good opportunity, we collaborate also with our counterpart in Korea under the ASEAN Cyber University project. We put those courses in that ASEAN Cyber University project, and these modules are online and for free. That is our principle, which is access to knowledge is probably more important than the ownership of it. So we give away these courses online for free. For example, next, these are in the website of the ASEAN Cyber University, but the contents were produced by our own people, our own experts. We have contents related to ASEAN regionalism, the shared identity, the security cooperation, these modules. Also, economic competitiveness, the role of business in economic integration. These are the example of the modules, including modules on transnational crimes in ASEAN, ASEAN and human rights, cultural identity, popular culture. These are available for free. And next, this is the recent production offer for free also from one of our thematic networks on human rights education, based on their own textbook writings and research products. They transfer those knowledge into online courses on human rights studies in Southeast Asia. And these are the examples of the modules they offer for free. We have rights, for example, rights of disability people, indigenous and minority rights, sex and gender diversities, environment and human rights, rights of refugees. Again, these are available for free online. And for this one, you can also get it from the website of the host of this AUN thematic networks, which is the Mahidol University in Thailand. Each of our thematic networks is hosted by one of our member university, except only one network, which is Quality Assurance or AUNQA, is hosted by the AUN Secretariat. And next is doing things online also involve the adaptability of our academic resources, academic staff into online teaching modes. In this respect, we also collaborate with some of our European partners in organizing the workshop on how to teach online, how to design the outcome-based learning, and deliver it online. And this thing also related to the encouragement of lifelong learning as well. Next is one of the main work of our also important thematic network on technology enhanced personalized learning, which is hosted by Singapore Management Universities. The mission of this subnetwork is to encourage the use of technology in a form of the learning that each and every one of us, of the students, can learn, that suits their each one's own learning behavior and learning mentality by utilizing all the technology available. In the past few months, this thematic network hosted by SMU also run a webinar series related to these themes of technology enhanced learning. You can follow them from you can follow this webinars training and workshop from the website or the web page of SMU, also for free, all these webinars. Those are just example of how the AUN has been adapted in doing things online, and I think the pattern emerged that it made me look back to over 20 years ago when this network of universities started, and you may be surprised to see this. Next is the 20 years ago when AUN started to form as a network of the leading universities in ASEAN region. We came up with this proposal to somehow to have a form of virtual universities. This proposal was discussed and then later on drafted by I'm not sure that the current name is still the same, by the College of Computer Studies in De La Salle University. This is 20 years ago. Our network discussed about a form of network of independent universities that somehow could pull together the academic resources in many forms in order to achieve the use of, at that time they call it modern ICT, and as well as other form of technologies. Also at that time they anticipated that technology was developing very fast, so there would be a new form of emerging technologies. And the way to do it, they suggested that it can be in many forms. The way we collaborate to pool our resources together among the ASEAN universities can be in many forms. It should not be restrictive. And also we have to let it evolve over time. Collaboration should not be very limited, very strict in the scope of what we collaborate together. On the opposite, it should be dynamic things. Let it evolve. And also, at that time we anticipated that there's a lot of what we call the old normal barriers. This is not the new terms or wordings. I got it from the draft proposal drafted 20 years ago. At that time, they anticipated that in order to pull together the academic resources to the use of the information technology, there will be a lot of resistance, the so-called old normal barriers. Okay. And we also thought that we somehow we must break through these barriers. Think about that and looking back and looking ahead now to our situation. I think that with all the coming with the pandemic, I think there's opportunities during this pandemic that somehow we can we can persuade more people in our network to break these old normal barriers. Some of the barrier I like to make an example. Some of the barrier is, for example, the attitude that knowledge must be owned. Yes, access to knowledge is less important than the ownership of knowledge. That is one of the old normal barriers. Another barrier is university. For the universities must somehow have a very clear demarcation that the way they run their own teaching and learning is very restricted in their own universities. For some lecturers, for some instructors, without collaboration with, particularly cross-border collaboration with their peers outside the universities. Those are just the example that we anticipated 20 years ago. And the last point that I like to highlight in this old vision is that anyhow they saw it as a new opportunities. This virtual university setup is a new opportunities that worth exploring. Right, I like to move to my last slide next. After I have been showing the viewers our responses to the current lockdown problems and how the AUN adapted, including some of the the vision that we had in our stock of the 20 years engagement in the cross-border collaboration. The pattern emerged as I put it here in this last slide, showing how the AUN engages with the all the, either you call it cyber university projects or you call it cyber learning programs and projects. The key issue here is that I like to make is that in engaging with online learning, it's not easy. There are factors that can hinder you or also can encourage you to go ahead. And we summarize how we go about in doing so into a kind of the 4 main factors that we see as most important. One is access to educational opportunities and lifelong learning for all. This factor is really strategic, and it's a dream of all policymakers to succeed in achieving this factor, the so-called access to education. The second factor is how we make sure that those educational provisions that we provided to our citizens are in good quality and standards. This is a question of quality, not quantity. And then The the third factor that we see as important is the how we tailor our online learning to the needs of the individual and institutional, and also how could it match the capabilities of the institutions and the individual. This we talk about the knowledge, skills, attitude, and cultures of not only the individuals but also the institutions. How we could make our collaboration, online collaboration, to support the capability building of the individual as well as the institutions. And the last factor is everything should be tailored to the realization of the future world of work. So these are the four factors framework that the AUN is using, at least the AUN Secretariat is using as the guiding principle in going about our cyber learning or online learning projects. What we fear in this framework is we fear the divergence. Each pair can be diverge from each other, and that create a bad results. What we encourage is the convergence among these pairs of factors. Okay, that is what I have time for, and I like to end my talk with the next slide. For more information, everything I discussed here today, every viewers can find it on the AUN website, and also every viewers can subscribe to our weekly AUN newsletter. You can subscribe to it and can learn about the new announcement, for example, the scholarships things, the new webinar things that are on offer. And that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Choltis. That's a very informative talk, and at the same time, you gave us hope because we know that you have a lot of projects and programs for institutions, at the same time for our faculty and for our students. So you don't give up. So you found ways, and that way is going online. And to our surprise, you have anticipated that 20 years ago when you had that virtual universities concept. So we know that you are very ready to implement online learning. So thank you for the framework also, because HEIs can actually adopt the framework that you've presented. We have the strategies, policies, and then measurement, and of course the strategies, policies that we make should be tailor fit to the knowledge, skills, and attitude and culture of the school, of the students, of the faculty, and all of these are aimed toward the realization of the future. So thank you very much, Dr. Choltis. I know you're a bit tired because of that comprehensive presentation. So we'll give you some space to breathe as you wait in the backstage for the next speaker, because after the turn of our next speaker, we'll be inviting you once again together with Attorney Lily for our open forum. So we encourage again our viewers to key in your questions, and please, if you can also indicate the speaker whom you want to answer your question, then it would be better. So place them in the comment box section of Facebook. At the same time, you can also use the chat box in YouTube. That's it. So thank you, Dr. Choltis. We'll be giving you your e-certificate later. So rest for a while, sir. Now we proceed to our next speaker. I know that you have learned a lot from our first speaker, so please keep your monitors and speakers on, for we will have another learning session with our second speaker who will be sharing with us addressing the pandemic's challenge to wellness. So it's another interesting topic. His specializations include counseling psychology, educational leadership, psychotherapeutic counseling, and values education. He obtained his licentiate in psychology from the Gregorian University in Rome and his doctorate in counseling psychology from the La Salle University, Manila. In addition to practicing clinical counseling and psychotherapy, he also served as director of formation for members of religious community, the La Salle Brothers. Let us welcome our next resource speaker who will talk about wellness, the president of the La Salle University, Manila, Brother Raimundo B. Suplido, FSC. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Galera. Uh, yes, it's an honor to be joining this webinar, and I'm sure we will be enriched by the uh, sharing of the different resource persons who will be addressing the webinar this morning and this afternoon.
Well, sir, we'll have that later on in the open forum. So it's just so exciting, that moment that we look forward to when three great minds would collaborate to answer our questions later on. So I would not be wasting any time, brother. So we will now give the virtual floor to you. Again, let's welcome Brother Suplido from De La Salle University.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, my greetings to Attorney Lily Milia, and also a happy birthday to her on this special occasion. To Dr. Choltis, good to see you, and hoping that you're keeping well and keeping safe together with the AUN Secretariat. Uh, to Dr. Galera, uh, well, of course, our moderator, Mr. Balde, and Dr. Mel Ancheta, who was influential or instrumental in the organization of this webinar. And of course, my greetings to all the participants and the viewers on following this webinar. Good morning, and I wish you a very, very meaningful webinar. The topic I chose has, I think, considers the challenges that the pandemic has thrown into the educational forum. But again, maybe just briefly, I will not go into details because all of us have experienced this. COVID-19 has been attacking or posing threats to everyone around the world. No exceptions as far as I know. Poor or rich countries, uh, those who are in the medical profession, those in peace and order organizations, education, finance, and so on. So the threats to health and safety applied to all. And then, of course, the economic and financial losses. Uh, we can proceed to the second slide. Okay, economic and financial losses, and we are foreseeing recession coming up. So it's not just the sari-sari stores and the malls. It's not just the jeepneys, as well as those who fly the jets internationally. Or it will affect whole countries in terms of economical and financial challenges. Next is disruption of the level of family and social relations. Again, distancing, limited travel, limited interaction. These are all the challenges continuing to affect us. And then, of course, the quarantine or the shift to online and blended learning. Uh, if many of us involved in education have been forced to radically move into almost full-time online, and as well as uh, planning blended learning for that. And then stressful quarantine conditions. Uh, Manila has been put on moderate, enhanced community quarantine, and we know all the different limitations and demands of that quarantine. Lastly, I'd like to mention that we may forget that there were already pre-existing challenging conditions before even the COVID hit us. And I would like to talk about that because these are important aspects, I think, of my presentation. So in the next slide, uh, there were pre-existing conditions affecting university members. This was even before COVID came into the picture. There were already reports from universities and colleges in the US, in Canada, Australia, UK, Asia, and also the Philippines that their stakeholders were being affected by the changes in the fourth industrial revolution, for example. These were affecting changes in job definitions, and were also changing the view of what emerging skills would be coming up in the near future. So there were a lot of threats and affecting the mental states of the different stakeholders: the faculty, the students, the parents, the alumni, the other stakeholders in education. So this led to rising levels of anxiety and helplessness among the stakeholders in light of the disruptions that were evolving. Next, this led to feelings of isolation and inadequacy, or even of failure, because the fourth industrial revolution was doing away with the structures and uh, activities, knowledge, and skills which existed before the revolution. And now these were affecting how universities and, of course, society would deal with these changes. And this were so serious that there were increasing rates of depression and suicide. uh, in my meetings with other university presidents and rectors in the Philippines as well as abroad, we often talked about these increasing rates of depression among our students, and a number of cases of even suicide, either attempted or successfully done. And this made us also conscious of that, which means that we have to pay greater attention to the mental health and the mental states of our stakeholders. So these were pre-existing conditions even before COVID. Uh, Next slide. In the uh, ASEAN universities, in response to COVID, the responses were, well, traditionally, or reference to the triple functions of universities, it would be, of course, in the area of teaching, research, and extension. in response to these challenges of COVID, since we have experts and resource persons who will be addressing this. I will not go into detail into these responses. What I would like to focus on this morning is another challenge in education. In addition to the challenge to teaching, research, and extension, and that is has to do with the wellness of our stakeholders, meaning our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni, our parents, other stakeholders. They are being challenged too by the pandemic. And we need to be aware of that and also respond to it. So, this is a serious health concern. The well being or the wellness of our faculty, students, and staff in our universities. And just as we give uh, close attention to the learning process in our struggle to continue initiate researches and to find ways to move our extension services and projects to online or blended modalities, we may overlook or take for granted the overall well-being, wellness of our stakeholders, which is also of great importance. So I'd like to focus on that. What do I mean by wellness? Well, to borrow from the World Health Organization, wellness is an active process of becoming aware of making choices towards a healthy and fulfilling life. It's not just being free from illness, it has to do with making choices that will bring us to a sense of complete physical, mental, and social well being. That, I think, is the wellness we are referring to. Uh, is an active process. It has to do with making choices, and to maintain our health is a project that is ongoing. It is never completely achieved, and so in that sense, we have to be aware of our wellness and the wellness of our stakeholders. Okay, in the you might say the reality of universities, we already have the pre-existing factors. I will not repeat them. Okay, which stress the importance of mental health and psychology or psychological aspects of our stakeholders. Then we now have the uh, added challenge of the COVID 19's uh, challenges to the these other factors. What are they? Uh, well, disrupted family and social relations. Uh, as we know, uh, if there is a even suspected infection in the family or in the group, that there are quarantine conditions that take place. Okay, in education, that also affects the stakeholders. The second one is the shifting from face to face to online and blended learning, and this is uh, those of us who are implementing full online learning are probably getting feedback on the stresses that are being experienced both by students and by faculty in trying to cope with this new platform or new modality of the teaching learning process. Third, we have to again constantly be aware of virus testing and results. We probably scan the newspapers every day to find out numbers of new infections, recoveries, and then of course fatalities, and see where our neighborhood, where our country ranks in terms of these uh, problems that have arisen. And so this is also affecting the way we study and the way we teach. Next, the limited movement and interpersonal contact. You can imagine that this has added more stress to the different ways in which we interact. Uh, if you have a chance, read the guidelines in Japan to the Japanese people, saying we have COVID 19 is here to stay. Therefore, we have to do these things. There are about 25 or 30 things they have to do, affecting movement and interpersonal contact. Fifth, okay, the worries, finances, the infection or death in the family members and acquaintances, uh, what the future is going to be like. These are all stressful challenges coming from the COVID pandemic, and therefore the importance again of the effect or the repercussions. The next area is the impact on mental health and wellness among our members. And that is important. World Health Organization has pointed out mental health and psychological considerations. The CDC, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention, also stresses that attention should be given to mental health. And recently, UNESCO sponsored an international webinar attended by 159 participants from 33 countries. And at the end, the group underscored the critical need to give socio-emotional support to teachers to enable them to deliver learning during this time of crisis, as well as support their students' emotional needs. Oftentimes, we talk about the teaching process, but we may overlook the emotional impact or the emotional factors that are felt by the teachers and their students in undergoing this shift from face to face to online or remote learning. So I think we these factors increase feelings of fear, isolation, inadequacy, helplessness, and these feelings raise the levels of anxiety and stress. And if our stakeholders' ability to cope is low or fragile, and maybe also if the support assistance is lacking, then the feelings of hopelessness and depression would ensue. And this can be accompanied by suicidal thoughts and, if not, actions. So it is a train of different effects that flow from the added factors of COVID in terms of the stakeholders' wellness and well being. What have been the responses of universities to promote or preserve wellness? And there are quite a number of examples that are available online. You have some telemental health services online that you can tap, you can call, you can email, etc. That offers telecounseling, even spiritual accompaniment. And then, of course, dozens of webinars just focusing on wellness and then how to cope with the stresses of the pandemic, as well as even educational shifts from face to face to online learning. Another is some offer even virtual uh, services, virtual career services, virtual, of course, enrollment, uh, grade, giving out of grades, etc. These are all orientations to for incoming students. These are ways in which the universities have responded to the pandemic. Another way is in terms of even shifting some of their programs from face to face to online. So culture and arts programs, uh, the you can have virtual art tours, you can have talent shows, concerts in online, and these are part of the responses universities have been very creative in offering their stakeholders. Another way is social engagement also can be done online. Uh, Formation, the development of values online. But they can also encourage students, for example, to have fundraising or to support advocacies online. And that these are different ways in which the universities have continued their programs in the full development or holistic development of their students and faculty. Uh, and I added here monitoring the wellness quotient of the stakeholders. There are different, the American College Health Association has come up with uh, an instrument for measuring the different aspects of wellness among the students. This is there's a journal article that promotes this, and uh, that can be made available to us, or you can access it through the web. Uh, the the whole area here of uh, monitoring is so that we will know at what level or and which persons are doing well and which persons maybe are struggling and which persons might be in critical need of assistance or accompaniment. So this is another way in which universities are trying to respond to the stresses of a pandemic on their stakeholders. uh, the the next slide. Okay. One of the biggest challenges, and I think it's not just for universities, but even Choltis was describing how AU and Secretariat and the thematic networks are shifting or translating activities and services to blended and online mode. And I think for universities, this is one of the challenges, and probably the I'm sure our resource persons coming up will go into more detail on this. Uh, the the importance of shifting, in other words, not to lose out to the pandemic and to leave our stakeholders, isolated. We need to go into shifting of activities and services to online mode. And this is also to promote wellness and well-being, and to bring down the sense of isolation and helplessness among our stakeholders. So, for example, leadership building activities. This can be done, or it's being done. Okay. Another is the in the area of peer counseling or counseling, extension volunteer programs, again, orientation or actual training modules for them. And then third, programs for the members, the student governments or student organizations. Again, they should continue their own programs, and again, be in touch with students, student leaders, with the members of the different classes. So these are different ways in which we can do that. Okay. Now to move to the topic on AUN, what cohesive collaborative responses is available to AUN? Okay. First of all, I must underscore there are many advantages working in favor of AUN. Choltis has given us the structure of what AUN is like. AUN is organized. There is an existing structure. Could you tap the okay, functioning structures? A the the secretariat as well as the thematic networks are working and very dynamic. So that is already a plus factor. Next, AUN has tried and tested bonds among universities, either the members, core members, or affiliates. They have been doing projects together. So that is something already that we can build on. Next, facilities. Universities are have shifted to online, so they are getting more adept at using either synchronous or asynchronous programs. They have the hardware for doing this, so that can be channeled into the uh, response to the challenge to wellness. And then next, expertise. Of course, with the faculties and resource persons available to the AUN members, that is also, you might say, available easily in terms of how to apply it to the area of wellness. Faculty, researchers, as well as experience in this area. So these are, and these are part of the objectives and goals of AUN. If we go uh, to the root of what AUN is about, certainly wellness is not excluded from the objectives of AUN. Uh, the next slide, to go into a little more way means of cohesive and collaborative responses, I'd like to say that there are the thematic networks, and this is, I think, something that is going for AUN. I There are 17 thematic networks, and this is, I identified 6 or 7 of them that can be directly linked to wellness. Of course, there's health and promotion network, so wellness could be focused by them. The Student Affairs Network on the wellness of students, culture and the arts, how it can contribute to well-being in this pandemic thing. Disability and public policy, that is also can easily focus their attention on how to promote wellness. And then technology and personalized learning, the the ramifications of the shift to technology and personalized learning. What is the emotional impact on faculty and students and staff, and how can that be improved or strengthened depending on how they are experiencing it. There are other networks, maybe only indirectly related. Quality assurance. There are 117 members of AUN that have undergone quality program. I wonder if wellness and well-being is included in the, what do you call this, the instrument for assessing quality assurance. Just as there are plenty of uh, criteria for assessing the administrative, the curricular or academic aspects of the university. Perhaps I would like to ask if there are areas, the area of wellness or well-being is considered in the instrument. Uh, Next is crisis manage. Recently there was a crisis management framework for institutional international student mobility, and this is also can include the dangers of COVID-19 and how to respond to that. Um, there are other networks that are partners of AUN. Choltis mentioned AUN plus three. You have AUN Sun Sixers, and then dozens of other international partners. Almost, I think, 50 of them. If just a cursory look at the annual report of of the AUN Secretariat. So these are additional ways in which they can be done. Uh, in the using these networks, what could happen? Come up with interinstitutional, international, intercultural, and multidisciplinary actions. So this could be done by providing resource persons and programs uh, in wellness, in strengthening awareness, as well as research studies on wellness. Another way is by sharing strategies for wellness promotion of the different groups, how to cope with COVID-19, the threat, okay. Another is by uh, coping with difficulties from changes to online mode of teaching learning, and then of course translating student activity programs to online mode. These are coping strategies so that the strength or the sense of health and wellness will be strengthened or developed among our stakeholders. And so these are international, interinstitutional, multidisciplinary actions by AUN member universities and networks. Lastly, benchmarking or cooperating in terms of planning, implementing programs, in terms of best research, best practices in research findings, also conducting multidisciplinary research in terms of wellness and coping, and then promoting wellness, joint wellness programs. Because again, we've discovered that the boundaries we thought existed between nations or between countries and between universities are easily overcome by Zoom meetings, by webinars, and so on. Okay. So, in conclusion, I think we have the challenge of COVID 19 is a moment of crisis, but it can also be a moment of discovery and innovation. And if we work together as AUN, then we will arrive at uh, innovation and, and also success, not only in teaching, research, and extension, but also in the wellness, the promotion of wellness among our members and our stakeholders, not only for them in our respective universities, our countries, but for the region and for the world. So thank you for your attention, and we hope, and I hope that the rest of the day will be meaningful to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Supido, the president of the LaSalle University, Manila. It's indeed enlightening for all of us as you emphasize the need for social emotional support to our teachers and emotional needs of our students. And you also cited concrete ways to support our teachers and students in the promotion of their health and wellness. Perhaps HEIs can adopt what Brother Suplido mentioned a while ago, the interinstitutional, international, intercultural, and multidisciplinary actions. And of course, benchmarking so we can exchange best practices in the promotion of wellness of our stakeholders, and we can do it online. So thank you very much, Brother Suplido from De La Salle. Now we call back the other two resource persons, Attorney Lily. Are you in? And of course, Dr. Scholtes, the AUN Executive Director. So aside from their talks a while ago, we also have realize that AUN is really, as I mentioned a while ago, it's a source of hope because we see that their programs, which are translated into different frameworks, are actually very comprehensive. And taking advantage of those programs and support coming from AUN will make us will give total quality education of HEIs in the Philippines. So thank you very much. Before we proceed to our open forum, we acknowledge our audience, our viewers from all over the Philippines and all over Asia and Asian universities as well. So we have from the Tacloban, Batangas, Ormoc, Pasig City, Dinagat Island, Laguna, Tawi-Tawi. We also have our faculty members and officials from DLSU. And we also have our audience from Surakarta, Indonesia. And of course, our faculty, staff, and officials from different universities in Asia. We have from University Brunei Darussalam, Universitas Gadjah Mada, University Malaya, and National University of Laos. I think Ma'am Attorney Lily is already with us. And we also have UK
Good morning, Dr. Cholti and
this
Brother Ray. Thank you.
international. So I think everybody is excited to learn from AUN representatives, of course, in the person of our speakers a while ago, and a representative from Chet Central Office in the person of Attorney Lily. And I think we already have a question. And so keep the questions coming in. Please encode your questions on Facebook comment section, YouTube chat box. Thank you. So, what's the first question? We have, where can I get the list of ASEAN studies modules? Are they credit bearing modules? That's from Mom. And I think this question is addressed to Dr. Scholtes because I think you mentioned a while ago about
That's right.
modules available online. So, Dr. Scholtes, would you mind answering the question from Mom?
Th- thank, yes. Thank you for your questions. Um, we can get it from the website of the AUN itself. The AUN Secretariat has been running a website. The ASEAN study modules is a kind of a free content designed as a very adaptable for university, particularly if we would like to run a general a general course or the so-called general education courses is adaptable, meaning that you can have it as a credit bearing courses, I- or non-credit bearing is a free content that you can adapt, but we are not running it as a provision of online teaching courses. It's just a free content that any lecturer in the world can get it for free. But also don't forget the human rights module. Those are the very latest of our editions, also for free.
Right.
Thank
Oh,
you very
okay.
much, Dr. Scholtes. So, as Dr. Scholtes mentioned a while ago, it's free because he believes in the spirit of collaboration and knowledge is meant to be shared. And now we have another question. The other speakers, by the way, can provide additional answers if they want to. So, Attorney Lily and Brother Suplido, you can also add some if you want to. The second question, by the way, is how can our institution be a part of AUN? So many are already encouraged to be a part of AUN. So who would like to answer from our
Uh, right. The the best way is to look at also at the web page of the AUN. You can see the catalog of the 17 thematic networks of the AUN. It's like a menu, like a food menu that you do your own shopping list. You can study the menu, join and can ask or can join the thematic network that that are suitable for your universities, and from there you will learn more about how the AUN work as a network of many networks as well. So my suggestion is to look at the thematic networks menu.
yes, brothers? You
If
may
I may add, each thematic network has a lead institution,
Mm,
a university that is the lead institution for that network.
mm,
So you can contact the lead institution directly and then express your interest in joining that particular thematic network. So it could be an environment, it could be on what do you call this?
Sure.
Human rights, it could be on culture and the arts, it could be on student activity. It's a whole menu, as Chaltis mentioned.
thank you, Brother Ray. So I hope that satisfy the question of Irma. So you can check their web page, or you can contact the leading institution. So there are many areas that we can collaborate in. Yes. And then we have another question. How do you see students' mobility for year 2021? Attorney Lee, would you want to answer this? How do you see students' mobility for year 2021?
Only online.
Okay. But more imaginative, brother. Going to be more imaginative. It's going to be challenging.
Virtual.
But yes, it will all be probably only virtual. Um, but we must continue to really share the best practices as pointed
Yeah.
out by Dr. Choltis, because there will be. I was thinking it should not just be 2021, but even beyond, because
Mm.
while probably in the near future we can get the mobility back, but I think the lessons also from the virtual exchanges, the things that we're doing now, should also input to creating better programs beyond 2021.
Yeah, well, probably the other resource persons will talk about that, but we often think of mobility as physical. mobility.
Yeah,
But this pandemic has
that's
shown
true.
us that no, uh, virtual or actual mobility through internet is possible, both on the part of students as well as on the part of professors. So what we thought before was very difficult to set up a lecture from somebody in the UK to a university in the Philippines or even a group of universities in the Philippines is now not a big deal anymore. It can easily be set up. You can have a Zoom meeting or Google. Uh, that is mobility in another sense, and I think that is also a positive development.
Okay, so mobility has now evolved. The definition of mobility has now evolved. It's not only physical mobility, but we now have virtual or online mobility. Dr. Schultes, would you want to add something?
Oh, yes. Just to add up to both Brother Ray and Attorney Lily, that the physical mobility is very difficult for the 2021. But um, I think this afternoon you will hear something interesting from both Brunei and Malaysia. They are doing a kind of hybrid thing that combine the online mobility and waiting for the opportunity that if there's a bubble popping up, you can have a combined physical mobility as well. So I will look forward to the afternoon session as well.
Thank you, Dr. Schultes. Another question. We are, this question is from Hongboy. We are ICHEM International Center of Higher Education, the University of Bath in the UK. I wonder if we can work together to enhance capacity of AUN. Would
Yes.
Holly.
Yes, of course. We are open up to any partners, particularly in Europe, Australia, and America, as well as the plus three countries. And the way we do it is we look at your interest first. If your interest matches some of our thematic networks, we put you directly to those thematic networks. But if your interest match the general interest of the whole network, I will deal with your interest directly and put it through our member universities.
Thank you, Dr. Schultes. Next question. What are DLSU's plans regarding students who do not necessarily have the privilege of owning gadgets or having stable internet connection? I think
Okay.
it's obvious, so answer this.
I think that is a challenge not only to DLSU, but many of our HEIs, or even not HEIs, but even high schools and elementary or primary schools. But we did a survey of our students and faculty to find out, okay, what kind of devices are available to them. uh, we evaluate whether those devices would fit into the platform that we are using, and then what can we do to assist them. So uh, we have entered into an agreement with the telcos so that they can provide, for example, portable Wi-Fi gadgets for students and faculty who where the perhaps the signals are not too stable or not strong enough so that they can conduct or participate in these programs. We have offered also a uh, in terms of our scholars equipment that they can use in order to help them be again to have access to the different programs that we have. So we're trying out different things. We're hoping that maybe when the quarantine is relaxed, we can make available uh, some of our facilities for students to come in and use the facilities uh, that they may not have access to at home.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ray, for that answer. We have so this is not a question but a commendation. So from Sir Lori, yeah,
Doc-
congratulations and many thanks, Attorney Emilia, Dr. Schultes, and Brother Ray. The inputs were very helpful. So that's
Thank
comment
you.
coming from Maureen Chua Garcia. Okay, so as mentioned by Brother Ray, it's a challenge. It's actually a work in progress because we mentioned earlier that this is an unprecedented phenomenon. So nobody expected this, but what's important is we're trying our best to face or to seek for creative means to reach out to our students. Another commendation from Luisa Valencia, Teams IAS
I'm
and Chedro,
director.
congratulations for this webinar. Bravo. Thank you, ma'am, for your generous comment.
And thank you also on behalf of CHED. Thank you for the AUN, for Dr. Choltis, for Brother Ray, and all the speakers. We, even the international affairs, did not have time to put up this meeting with you, but our very hardworking and excellent regional office has really organized it well. Thank you so much, Dr. Choltis, and the other participants, and
Welcome.
Brother Ray. Thank you.
Okay, thank you also, attorney, and yeah, and to our resource speakers, Brother Ray and Dr. Schultes. Indeed, we have a wonderful learning session this morning. So before you go, Attorney Lily, please assist us in giving our e-certificates to Brother Ray and Dr. Schultes. Indeed, this is the mobility that we're talking about, or benchmarking that we're talking about. We don't have to spend much time, money, and effort going to places because we can already reach out to AUN, to LaSalle, and we can ask their best practices. And this afternoon, we'll have more. So let me read the content of the certificate. Certificate of appreciation is given to Brother Raimundo B. Soplido, FSC, President de La Salle University. Virtual applause to our resource speaker. Thank
I
you
will
so
give you
much.
applause.
And of course, another virtual certificate is given to Dr. Sholtis Diratiti, AUN Executive Director. Another virtual applause for Dr. Sholtis. And we will also be awarding another certificate for AUN for being our partner in today's webinar. So thank you very much, AUN, or the ASEAN University Network. And I think many HEIs are excited to join AUN. So please, after this, check their website and see points where we can partner with AUN or can be a member of AUN.
Thank
We
you.
will be
Thank you.
emailing you the certificates, Brother Ray and Dr. Schultes. So thank you very much for our participants. You will also be receiving your e-certificates this afternoon if you are going to fill out our evaluation form. So before we end our morning session, We would like to ask our speakers if they have final words for our viewers or audience.
Uh,
Um, Probably a one-liner or two. Yes, Dr. Schultes.
yes, I'd like to say hi to all my friends in the Philippines, and please stay safe. Thank you.
Brother Ray.
Well, thank you and congratulations to CHED and AUN for organizing this webinar and continuing to promote the quality of our HEIs in the region. Congratulations.
And Attorney Lily.
As I said, thank you, AUN, thank you, Dr. Schultes, for this, and congratulations, Chedro one, truly an excellent one, and happy 53rd founding anniversary of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much too. So we are reminded that despite the pandemic, we have to continue our job of educating our students to be resilient and competent to take on any challenge this life has to offer. But we also have to remind ourselves and our students to prioritize their health and wellness. At this point in time, we will have a break. So this afternoon we'll be back at 1 o'clock. So we will have our second session with 4 school officials from Brunei, Malaysia, Laos, and Indonesia who will be sharing their best practices in education. So thank you very much. We'll see you later on. Happy lunch. 1 o'clock.